That's the beauty of live streaming. Okay, I'm getting confirmation now that we are live. All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome to Maker's Minute episode 5. I'm Daniel from ModBot. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I can't believe that it's already episode 5, and I'm stoked. Thank you so much. I've got Ryan here on this episode from V1 Engineering. Most of you guys that are into 3D printing are, I'm sure, familiar, at least heard of his main project, which is the MPCNC, or the Mostly Printed CNC. He was awesome enough to come on this month, and we made it just in the end of the month. It's 5/27, and normally I do them in the middle. So thank you so much for coming on. I know it was kind of last minute.
Sure.
I think I just asked you like a week and a half or 2 weeks ago max, and you were totally on board. So yeah, thanks so much for coming on. And if you want to give a little intro, just to say hello, I'll let you do that.
Oh man, I'm just happy to be here. I have nothing, we're stuck inside, so why not? Let's see what these people can do.
Awesome, man. Yeah, and it's actually, first things, it's really cool to see your shop, because I know that you do pretty much all of your kits, which we'll get into all that stuff a little bit later, but it's really cool seeing all the stuff going on in the background, because I haven't seen too many people's home kind of like print farms, like other than what's the guy that does the project like FDL, the Nerf gun stuff. Like I've seen his, there's highlights on his crazy Prusa lab, but it's cool to see someone else's, and yours is way more organized. Like granted, like you have a garage, which is my dream, and I've got an apartment shoved with stuff, but like seeing that, I'm just the goals with all the nice bins labeled and everything looking nice on a rack. Like,
well, it came out of a single bedroom. So if you're not organized, you're just unstacking boxes to get to something, and then you got piles on piles. So the bins were a necessity. Now that I'm hooked, I can keep it up.
For productivity, I would anticipate that this is a much better setup than having the one bedroom with a bunch of stuff shoved in it.
It's a little harder just because I know, as dumb as it sounds, because it's a little further away.
Gotcha.
So I kind of walk in circles all day, and the circle is just a little bigger now.
Gotcha.
But I can't get dirty in the same place. I can work and play, kind of just take a break and come back without having to go somewhere else.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, no, it looks great. So I will say, Ryan is someone that I met probably 4 or 5 years ago, I think, is when I first reached out to you, roughly. It had to have been 2016, 2000.
Probably
does that sound
5 years
right?
ago.
Yeah, about
Almost
5 years
exactly.
ago. Yeah. And so I got into 3D printing about 6 years ago, and I had printed a bunch of little, like things around the house, soft Thingiverse that everyone had kind of, like everyone does. And somehow, and I don't know how, honestly, I had originally found your project, because it was pretty low key at the time. It wasn't a very like big thing, but I had done research on some CNC machines, and one of the main reasons I got into 3D printing was for practical application. And so I thought the idea of maybe I could print some kind of machine. Well, through searching online, I ended up finding Ryan, and he had his project that, again, I think was in his infancy, which was the MPCNC, or the Mostly Printed CNC, which used everything that I love, which was 3D printing for the main components, really cheap conduit that you could pick up from like a local hardware store. I think I went down to Home Depot, and you had kits at the time, and I think it was one of the earlier kits, man, with like a Ramps Arduino board, and just some basic bearings and kind of things of that nature. But it's insane to see how far your project has come, man. Like, I mean, back then, so tell us, I'm curious, and I think back then you told me a little bit about things you were going on, but what is your background? Like, how did you get into all this stuff?
Oh man, I was about to graduate college. I got to the point where I was doing college part-time, and I got to the point where SDSU was like, hey, either you go full-time and graduate, or you're getting kicked out today.
Jeez.
And I was like, well, I can't afford it, so I guess I'm done. That's a bummer. And they told me, they're like, no, just do it. Trust me, it'll work. So I walked into class that day and I was like, hey guys, I don't have a job anymore. I don't know what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to buy one of these 3D printers, and I think I can just kind of do a little side hustle. And my buddy was like, hey, I just started working at this place called Robo 3D right around the corner.
In San Diego.
Yeah, and they need help. So why don't you just come in to work with me tomorrow, and I bet you they'll hire you. And I literally just drove in with them, and I was like, hey, he said you guys might need some help. And I started working.
That's insane, man.
Quit to working in one day. And then through Robo, I learned all the stuff and all the components. And I told them, I was like, hey, I got this idea. And they're like, we're busy. We're trying to catch up with our Kickstarter. Everything's crazy.
Yeah.
Went through that. I ended up getting an engineer. I graduated, got an engineering job outside of that. And we were there and we did prototyping constantly all day. And I was like, hey, I still got this idea for a CNC. And one day I just started it. I just started making it on my table. And when I finally had something halfway decent, I put it online. I went into work the next day and there was thousands of emails.
That's insane.
And it blew up. I ended up in some contest. I don't know how I found the contest, but I entered in the contest. I won the contest, and from there I went into work and I was like, hey, think I need to quit my dream job to go try this thing out. And they were like, no, dude, not yet. And I did, and it was a little rocky at first, but it's gone up the whole time.
How long? I've got plenty of questions based off what you just said, but how long have you been working or doing MPCNC stuff full time, or not just that, but I mean, the whole ecosystem, everything that goes alongside it?
I released the files 5 years and 2 months ago, and I probably worked on it for a couple months. So 5.5 years is like the whole.
That's insane, man. That's crazy.
I just started working on it, and I printed. I remember the corner piece was the first piece, and I printed it, and I set it on the table, and I went and did my thing, and I came back, and I printed. I had one printer.
Yeah.
So I set up another
piece by piece,
corner, did my thing, and I had these 4 corners, and I was like, okay, now what? And that's all I did. I was in Home Depot for hours and hours, Home Depot and Lowe's, and I was just trying to figure things out. Like, what can I use in here? I can't afford all this crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Barely had a job at the time.
Totally.
And I just pieced it together, and I couldn't believe all these people were hitting me up. People like you were just like, hey, this looks cool. How do I do it?
Yeah.
And so I kind of put the recipe online, and I was like, this is how you do it. And they're like, yeah, but can we just buy it from you?
Yep.
I was like, well, I mean, I have one more worth of stuff here because I had to buy everything kind of in bulk. So yeah, I can sell one. And that sold, and somebody's like, hey, I heard you're selling them. I'll take one. So then I made 5. 5 turned into 10.
Yeah, so on and so forth.
Oh,
it's crazy, man.
It happened fast enough to where there's kind of no time to like plan it. Somebody's like, what's your business plan like? It never existed.
Winging it, man. Day by day, like learning as you go. That's insane. So because I remember at the time that you were in San Diego, because I do feel like I remember you saying that you had graduated I think you had graduated from San Diego at the time. But I didn't know that I thought the 3D printing stuff was maybe just something you're doing on the side. I didn't know that you actually worked for Robo. Were you doing just like repair technician stuff, or what kind of stuff were you doing?
At Robo, I came in there, I think it was a week or two after they left their garage.
Yeah. Oh, so they were in startup. They were in major startup phase too, for sure. Okay.
Yeah. Like I walked in that day and I thought my buddy was going to introduce me and do all this stuff, but it was like his first or second day, and he'd only worked like 2 hours.
Gotcha.
So he kind of just walked in and was like, what should I do? And I was standing there like, hey, I don't know. And the first day I walked in and I started soldering end stops.
That's awesome.
And at first it was everything. We shipped end stops, and then they figured out I knew CAD. Then I started doing CAD, and then there's production issues. So I went with one of them, the CEO, to China, and we sat in China trying to get the production issues sorted out. And I mean, I'm where I'm at because of what they did. I learned what to do and definitely what not to do. Yeah. Because they did a Kickstarter, and I don't know, it was like $1 million or something. Yeah. That they had to fulfill, and I said I have this idea. They're like, oh, you should do Kickstarter, and I was like, no.
Yeah, I've seen
because from day one they're behind the ball. I mean, $1 million worth of orders, and they have a demo project.
No, that's a lot of, and I mean, if you even just look at Angus over at Maker's Muse has done over the years highlights of Kickstarter projects that have flopped, or things that promised that never fulfilled. And I will say that as much as I get that Kickstarter can be a great place to build capital for someone that doesn't have it, it can instantly you can instantly bury your company. Like if you bite off more than you can chew, which again, like not getting into specifics in this situation, but just in general, that can be terrible. And again, like with granted, it might be harder with your type, how you did it, where you kind of had to build up on your own, come up with your own capital, like, one kit at a time, then 5 kits and 10 kits. But at least you're natively growing, and like you're able to scale with it versus like, okay, I've got this idea, I've made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I've got 10,000 orders. Like what? Like it just seems like a lot more unnecessary stress. And again, I can understand all that money coming in. If you are able and you have the right connections and your experience, maybe you can make that work. But for your average Joe or someone that's got an idea that just wants to make it go large, like that is a huge stress to a huge pill to swallow, essentially.
Yeah, we learned so much. I mean, we were all involved. There was four or five of us, pretty much every day there. And a couple of people came in and out. So at the beginning, we had our fingers into everything, but people come in and, they want to give you advice for money. They want to sell you large quantities of stuff that turns out to just be horrible quality, or it doesn't show up. I mean, people make promises. And when you say, well, okay, yeah, this one looks good. Give me 20,000 of those now. And we need them right now. Things get weird. Even if it's a legit company, I think some of them just take the money and they're like, okay, well, good enough. We're out.
Gotcha.
I know a lot of things went sour that started off good. And then there's production issues. They finally got things coming in. And then, okay, now we need to double that. Every time you say double, on the other end, it was just all bad.
Gotcha.
That place would move to a new facility and they're trying to open up. So it's weird. Like on this side of it, I see what people say about all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I know they're trying too. It was such a learning experience. And I know people say so much negative stuff about doing business with China and other countries and trying to do this stuff. But going over there and seeing how it's done, they're not malicious. A lot of them are learning as well. Yeah. I know Robo's thing they got with a company that was doing coffee makers, I think. So this guy was like, okay, we can do it. And it made sense. They do injection molding, assembly, packaging, shipping. It's a lot of the same stuff. So then it was a lot of back and forth. Like, this is how you should do this, test this thing, set this up. And then, we get, like 2,000 or 3,000 of them at once. And it was like, hey, they're not making it through shipping. Like, they get here fine, and then we ship them out.
They're damaged.
And how do you... There's no way to know that. You ship 1,000 of them out, and all of a sudden, 100 of them get damaged.
That's a problem. That's a huge problem.
And you've got 2,000 on the water coming. I just saw how backed up you get. Nothing is instant. So whenever you find a mistake, you're 2 months behind it.
Gotcha.
There's nothing you can do. So there was a lot of times that showed up when we opened boxes and redid things.
It's crazy. And that sounds really valuable, though. For the sake of you coming from and seeing such a ground floor startup to doing what you're doing now, though, that does seem like the most valuable information you could have had, again, and like, I'm sure there was positive things you learned where, like, that's going to work for what I'm doing. And then like you said, even the other side of things were just, ooh, no. Like, I learned from what I saw doing that, that's crazy. I know that you mentioned that you were doing some CAD stuff and some soldering work. Was that stuff that you learned all through school, or were you doing like some electrical work and CAD stuff prior to going to school?
I did a lot of electrical stuff, electronics outside of school. They don't do too much of it for mechanical engineering. But when we got in and they showed us CAD, I almost quit school just to do CAD. In junior college, one of the professors offered me a job teaching a CAD deal, and then they had another job for me to make packaging, and I almost stopped right there. I liked CAD so much, I was like, cool, this is all I want to do anyways, and I'm already good at it, so I'm done. That's awesome. It's the only thing I've ever been cocky at in my entire life. I was like, oh, this is good. But then I got to Robo, and I saw how that was all going. I worked there for free for 8 months, full time. Yeah. Like, they were just like, 2 hours a week, we'll give you a printer in a couple of weeks. I worked there full time because of what I was learning. I learned more there than I did in school.
That's crazy.
I mean, more things that I knew would be applicable to my life. Even totally. I didn't think I was going to do a business at the time, but it was just coming in like a fire hose. You couldn't learn anything faster.
That's awesome. That's crazy. That's insane. I had no idea, man, that you worked at Robo on the ground floor when it first started out that many years ago. That's news to me. Um,
I was in the meetings with the Matter Hacker guys a few times, 3 or 4 times. They came over when we were working with them on the software.
yeah.
We were integrating the Robo.
Matter
and
control.
then it was kind of like, how are you guys using Matter Control? I don't know if it was Matter Control at the time, but
It
then
might have
it's
been
just
called
kind of like
something else,
switch
yeah.
these buttons up, and because we were big and close, so
Yeah.
it was that's what I mean, like all that kind of stuff. I was
awesome.
soldering switches and sitting in on development meetings for software that I knew nothing about.
Yeah, but still, like, even if there's just small fragments of information that you're understanding and you're picking up, it's valuable, you know? There's plenty of time to listen to conversations where, like, some of the trade shows I go to with work where they're, like, aerospace trade show or they're manufacturing, and I don't have a background in that stuff, you know, at all. And so I listen, and you start to... What's that?
You do now.
Oh yeah, exactly. But you know, I just kind of sit and I listen, and you start to hear the same words thrown around over and over again, and then you kind of pick the pieces up, and you know, from 2.5 years ago when I started working in the industry, if you will, to now, like I feel like I can talk the talk a lot more than I ever could before. I might not again have the the schooling, or there's certain things where I'm like, yeah, okay, when you're talking about certain things regarding like the tensile strength and like, you know, what's the bar and stuff, like, you know, some certain things are just a little bit over me, but I can understand the general, you know, consensus of what's going on, which is awesome. So, I mean, again, even in those dev meetings, if you're sitting there and you're like, this is foreign, but there's still valuable things that you are picking up, even if it's just in microscopic, you know, pieces.
In school, each subject you're only learning it for a semester, and that's, you know, a couple hours a week for,
yeah,
it's not very long. So if you wanted to teach yourself something, I mean, that's what college is. So you sit there and you listen to experienced people and you do a little research and you'll learn it. And that's it. I mean, it helped because I could go to school and I knew what I wanted to pay attention to. I would hear keywords and the professor would say something, and that's something I might ask about, like, wait, where's the tensile strength come into this?
Yeah.
And, you know, because I knew we were making things. And I was like, how would I test that? And knowing I'm going to go into Robo and like, I need to redesign this piece.
Yeah.
And so
I mean, cool, man.
As soon as you can apply it, you learn faster.
Yeah.
And that's
connects. For me with learning too, like you can tell me something all day long, but until I see it, or I learn by doing typically, even if that means breaking things. And I've broken plenty of things over the last 6 or 7 years since starting making YouTube videos. Like, I mean, I got into all this stuff because I got really interested into like hacking video game consoles, and I didn't know any of that stuff. And I would buy Xboxes with my paycheck that were broken and try to fix them. Black smoke would come out of them and be like, yeah, that didn't work out, you know, and you know, you learn. So, you know, it's all part of the process. But out of curiosity, with the whole CNC side of things, you had that idea for quite a while based off what you said, like through Robo, through the next company you worked at. What is it that stemmed that idea originally? Like, did you have a background in CNC and you wanted to make a low-cost CNC? Like, what, like, why, like, how? I'm just curious, like, how did this come into your mind where you're like, and it's not just, again, I have ideas all the time that I think are great, and then I find out that maybe they weren't so great, you know, but this was an idea you had that you believed in, and you talked about it multiple times over the course of different jobs and then actually did it. So what is it that you had this idea and you're like, this is going to be a big, like, or like, at least this is something that's going to be like interesting. Like, how did it come about?
We had big expensive CNCs at school. So I was introduced to the concept, but it was still, you can't touch that.
Yeah.
I was like, well, okay, well, I need this part. Like, how do we make this? And he's like, no, I make it and you get to come pick it up. And that didn't seem very good. And when I went to work, I was like, oh, this ramps board and this motor thing here, wait a minute. So then we plugged it in, you know, I go through all this. And I mean, day one, I was like, wait, that thing's like $8 and it does that? Wait, something's not right here. And I went through it and I was like, okay, controlled motion, that's a CNC. And then one day we were screwing with the firmware, something cheesy. I don't know if we were trying to add LEDs or something. I don't know. I saw the firmware and I recognized that I could read it. You know, I was like, oh, I thought this was going to be some magical code of numbers and letters, but it's like, oh, 200 steps.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, this is all it is?
Just a numeric
So we go
value.
through and like that day, a bunch of us sat there and just messed with the firmware. We dug into Marlin, and at the time Marlin was rough. I mean, it's considerably different 5 years ago.
Yeah.
We dug through it and we learned how to put things in. I think I have one of my first YouTube videos, I think, is the code we added to Marlin to fade a light. And that's instantly when I was like, hey, we can put a pen on this thing. I'm at home, I've got a sticker cutter, and it's just this little knife, and it's the same thing. It just moves around. I can just strap this little knife on here and we can go. And the guys at Robo were like, okay, when we catch up, maybe we can do kits or something.
Yeah.
And you come into work the next day and we just tape a knife on there and move it around. And we're like, see, it works. And so that's when I was like, hey, if I change this a little bit, we can put stuff on here easy.
Yeah.
And do a lot more with it. And then that's kind of when I think maybe one of them, I think Kobe showed me a Shape Oko.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just blown away. And there was a Lumen Lab CNC that I'd seen, but it always seemed really complicated. I wanted one and all that. It seemed complicated. There's something about that day when I saw in the firmware that it's just not complicated.
Yeah.
And then my brain went nuts. You know, I wanted everything.
The hamster on the wheel, right? That started it. Yeah.
And then one day it came together, was like, oh, you don't have to make all these things. Just make one that does all those things.
Yeah.
And that's when it was like the itch. I was probably very annoying about it. Like, hey guys, we can do this. I can do this. Like I'll do the CAD at home. Like, you guys know how to get stuff injection molded. Let's do this. And they were just like, we're busy.
Dang, man.
And it just stuck there. I couldn't let go of it.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's funny. I just saw my buddy Mod Shop is in the chat, I've known the guy through Xbox modding for, I would say, somewhere around 6, 7, 8 years, and he actually built one of your MPCNCs. I don't know if he saw, I doubt he saw it originally from my channel, but I know that I saw his, and his is awesome. It's got, like, he built an enclosure for it. It's got, like, the Rep Wrap LCD screen on it. Like, it's sick. So he commented in the chat saying Ryan's the man. So he's a super cool dude. So that is interesting. So again, it started, and I don't remember, because when I built the MPCNC original one that you sent to me, I believe it was already pre-flashed the board. It was running Marlin, right? It was a flavor of Marlin? Okay. Yep. And it's still Marlin. It's always been Marlin.
Yeah, well, yeah, we're trying. I'm best at Marlin.
Yeah.
So I'm comfortable. I only play with other firmware if and when I have time, and lately it's not all that recently or all that often, but Marlin's easy for me. Gerbil, I've used it and I understand it, but I can't go in and fix something right away. I have to spend too much time researching.
Gotcha.
But all of that stuff, to me, that's the magic part. That's the most interesting part. Like, I know fundamentally how to make things stronger, move and all that. But to me, coding and all that is still super magical. And I like to get into it, but I hate just touching it. I have to dive in and learn a little more.
Gotcha.
So that's why I stick with Marlin, because I know it. Yeah. And that's probably bad to admit.
Marlin's definitely, because even back, like, again, when I got into 3D printing, there was Repetier was another firmware that 3D printers were using a lot. And I think there might have been one more, but Marlin was the first one where I actually dove in and, again, looked at, like, the configuration.h file and was like, oh, this is, like, there's such great commenting on this. And I had taken a C++ course in community college, like 1 or 2, so, like, I was familiar with basic, commands and basic syntax. And so going in and messing around with it, granted, Marlin, when I used to, like, there was a couple conversions I did probably 5 years ago. Marlin was a lot simpler then. Granted, now it's like it's all moved over to, like, the new compiler and things like that, at least the new Marlin. But the last time I looked at Marlin and I went through the configuration H file, I was like, holy crap, there's a lot more stuff that's here now. Like, all the leveling stuff wasn't a thing back then. A lot of the some of the
all the new drivers.
Yeah, all that stuff, man. So
whole new motion system in there, and you can choose between motion systems.
Yeah.
It kind of got, I don't want to say worse. It got way more complicated for a while, and now it's getting cleaned up so well, and you don't really have to go outside and research much of it anymore, because it's getting commented really, really well
beautifully
now.
Yeah. No, it's insane. Question: when it comes to your operation, are you still fully one man, or no? You've got help.
Yeah, I have friends help me every once in a while.
Yeah, but I mean,
I didn't realize how often until they can't come over and help me right now. But
Oh, okay.
you
Yeah,
know,
but
an
I mean, there's
hour or two a
nobody.
week I get help.
Gotcha. But there's no other person that's like full time on the payroll like helping you out. It's just a full. That's crazy, man. I mean,
I'm.
that's insane. That's
It lets you work really differently, and I'm trying now to. I don't want to say outsource,
yeah,
but be picky with where I spend my time. So
totally.
now I pay to have the hardware kitted up into quantities,
Yep.
and in the end, it turns out it's not all that expensive. It's just hard to get started.
Gotcha.
So now I pack boxes, and then a lot of the time it's helping in the forums and emails, endless emails. I love working in the forums, but my emails are just nuts right now.
Brutal. I know that somebody I saw even earlier, and I know I said I don't typically interact with the comments, but whatever. There was someone that said earlier that the forums are awesome, like something about like the people over there are really nice or something like that. And I will say that the other day, around the time I think that I reached out to you, I that night went just to see like the latest stuff, and so I went through some of the forums, and I got like lost just looking at all the projects people have been working on, because again, like it's been so many years since I was really heavily involved with this, and or heavily involved before I was involved, before I built the project, like built the kit. And so there wasn't a lot of people doing crazy cool things. And I follow you on Thingiverse, so like when you would post new like add-ons or versions, I'd always see it and check it out. But it was the first time I really went through and saw sneak peeks. It was one of the first times I went through and saw all the stuff people are working on, and like people are doing awesome stuff with your CNC, man. Like everything from, I saw furniture, like full-size furniture, man. Like there was full-size awesome looking furniture that was being made on that.
I get so jealous.
It's
I get
sick,
so
man.
jealous that they get to use their machine for all that stuff.
It's awesome.
I used to be in there like, oh, you did that, so I would do it. And now I can't keep up.
Yeah.
I mean, there's everything. Even if you just narrow it down to woodworking, some of the guys are so good at it already.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is just another tool for them.
Yep.
And that's when it kind of just blows it out of the water. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
You made a really nice box, but then you just add this nice little monogram to it, and it's a whole different thing. And that's something you really can't do without a CNC.
Yeah.
Not in that degree.
Well, it's crazy. And I mean, the amount of people I talk to on a regular basis that are like old school woodworkers that are, interested in CNC, and like the main reason being is, time. And then also there's just certain things that obviously, of course, the CNC can do better. That it's computer controlled. So you tell it to do something, it's going to follow that. And it's really up to the user to make sure they know what they're doing. But it's crazy to see like something as simple as just a little box, like how beautiful it can turn out with somebody that's got like, certain like inlaid wood, or crazy like, adding like a V-carve to it, and just adding some crazy intricate like it's amazing, man. I love it. Like I think it's super cool. And like I love 3D printing, obviously. I mean, look at the channel. But CNC has always been a thing where, yes, I use 3D printing even for like stuff in the house, like it's holding up my blackout curtains in the living room. My laser uses it for an exhaust. I use it for all sorts of random things. But there's definitely a certain element of, and I know CNCs don't only have to work with wood, but making things out of wood that just feels awesome. Like something crafted out of wood. Exactly. Because
we have so much plastic stuff with the printers, everything that comes off the CNC seems special. I make little trinkets, and it's different. It does take a little more work to make one.
Yeah.
But if you make a bunch of them, the CNC is fast.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's not the same as printing. Printing now to me is a little more generic.
Yeah.
It's easy for me, so I use it more often. But yeah, it's not lost on me. The CNC is still very magical, and the things these people do every day, like I can't get bored of it, because every day somebody comes in with something different.
It's super
There's
fresh.
a guy right now making these amazing guitars, and he had some struggles at the beginning, and I swear, I hope he doesn't get mad, but I think he came in and was just having the roughest time. Like, this isn't working, either my glue up wasn't working, there's something in the CNC, and then he finally did it, and he did a flip, and the flip didn't work, but then he tried it again. But just the fact that he knew how to do the glue up well, he chose nice wood, and he put it together, and then he took the plunge and hit go on all that hard work already.
Yeah.
And just, he's made some amazing guitars.
Yeah.
And that's not the plasma or all the other crazy stuff people do. I mean, that's just the basic woodworking is nuts.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's definitely something that I love, and the reason why I think I haven't dove more headfirst into it was, well, initially when I made that one that back 5 years ago, it was in my bedroom. um, and I was living at my parents' house. It was in my bedroom. It was taking up at least half of my huge L-shaped desk, and I at the time was still trying to learn 3D printing a bit more, and I think I bit off much more than I can chew. And so what ended up happening was, in the process of I was moving into a buddy's house, I just didn't do much of anything with it. I did the pen plotting aspect of it. I screwed around a little bit with the rotary attachment, but I didn't get very far with it. And I actually have used a little bit of smaller desktop CNCs. In my walk-in closet, I've got a smaller one, and I've done some acrylic and some basic wood stuff, but the goal is definitely one day to have a garage you're sitting in. That is the dream. If the cost of living in Southern California wanted to cut down to 10% of what it is, I would gladly have a garage. But because I'm forced to currently be in an apartment, that definitely limits it. And I know that there are people that CNC, I've gotten calls from people that CNC in their apartment, and they've got full enclosure, and they just run it during the daytime, and they've got a shop vac. But for the sake of I don't live here alone. My fiance is a saint and deals with the sounds of robot 3D printers going from around the whole freaking place. But it's a tough sell. It's a tough sell, letting her know that there could be sawdust and kicking around. So, but I definitely, the goal is I would love to be able to make little bar stools, and I mean, I just seen crazy cool things that people do. And again, even if the wood costs money and it takes time and it's a lot of hard work, there's something about just making it yourself, even if it's essentially the machine doing it, but making it, it's really rewarding, man. There's just not much like it, making something yourself.
Combining the two, if you 3D print and give somebody something, a box, right? It's just a printed box.
Yeah.
They'll like it. It's neat. It's amazing. If they see it get made, it's still amazing.
Yep.
But if you just CNC'd out the panels and 3D printed the corners and put it together, the combination of two things,
beautiful.
The printers I'm running, you can change the color of the plastic, you can change the kind of wood, you put them together, and it's a completely different feel. It's not that toyish quality that the 3D printer stuff has.
Yeah.
Unless you finish a 3D printed part with paint and sandpaper, to me it always has that same
plastic-y
lesser
feel.
quality, I guess.
Totally.
Yeah.
No, I can understand
but
that.
you add the two, it's really nice. Just even the smallest parts, because you can do a lot of the crazy stuff with the printers, and then with the CNC, make parts to go into it or that fit on it, a window.
Yep.
Just the smallest part, and that's kind of why I think this works. It's so inexpensive. People can build it small, and you can. I mean, tuck it under. Most people have a bench and it's just on a shelf. They pull it out when they go to use it.
It's awesome.
And that's kind of how I got into it. I knew I'd never have the room for a big CNC.
Yeah.
And I was in the apartment, and sure enough, I made one on wheels. So I just kind of wheel it into the closet and wheel it out when I wanted it.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
And
I guess
I think that's why it stuck.
If there's a will, there's a way, for sure. Like you said, if you you totally.
It's loud and it makes noise. Loud and it makes a lot of a mess. So
yeah.
Don't push her too hard.
No, I won't. I know that there's certain times where I get the the silent head shake, and I'm like, all right, I know what I'm doing here. But
I'll push that one another time.
Yeah, I'll wait. We'll wait till she's settled about something else. But it's what Mod Shop. Two things. One, he donated $10 to the stream. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. That helps with the the going on iTunes and stuff like that, the host. And he also did say that he did see the MPCNC originally on my channel. So that's rad to know that someone that I knew saw it and then, actually went through with it. And he's done way cooler stuff than me. If his name doesn't give it away, he does a lot of console modding stuff. And so he's been using a combination of, I think, the mill and the laser to basically mill out custom cases for it. Then he adds acrylic and LEDs and stuff. So his stuff is really, really cool as well. But okay, one thing, so you talked about your 3D printers, which is something that I just looked at, and I saw that, I think those ones are right there, but they were gorgeous, made out of bamboo, right?
That's I was at Lowe's or something, and there was just a little quarter sheets, and it's like a bamboo veneer on some plywood. And I grabbed 2 sheets thinking, well, I'll use it for something because this looks good.
Yeah.
And it is. It's just plywood with a little teeny veneer on it.
Oh, so it's not full bamboo. It's
Looks like it
hey,
though.
it looks damn good, man. Yeah, I don't know where I saw it. I think it might have been in the forums again, but I was like, oh man, those look good. Because not that the original ones I saw didn't look good, but they were just like, a plain black color wood, which looks fine. But the bamboo, man, just like, oh, it pops. It's a beautiful.
And it's easier. It's easier and cheaper than the plastic I made most of them out of.
Oh, okay.
So, but you got to sand it and finish it and all that.
Yeah, of course.
There's part of that goes into it, but I have another one cut out, still sitting on the CNC that I haven't built yet.
That's
just
awesome.
Because I liked it so much, I was like, flip the wood, and I just cut the next one out.
When it comes to those, the MP3DP, how long ago did you make V1 of that, or how long ago did that come into fruition? Because I know that came after for sure the CNC.
Yeah, I started doing this. All my friends were still working at Robo.
Yeah.
Robo tossed out, I don't know, 80 printers or something, and they were like, yeah, free for all, you guys can have them, put them together. It costs too much to redo it. So he brought me one. Turns out it was one I'd already troubleshooted. So troubleshot, my name was on the bottom of it. So he brought it to me. I got that one working. I had two going, and a lot of people at the time still didn't have 3D printers.
Yeah.
So initially all my money came in from selling the parts. So I bought the cheapest clone I could find the first month I went full time.
Yeah.
And I put it together. It took forever, and it was horrible. And the E-steps were wrong, and I hit them up. I was like, hey, something's wrong with your firmware. I can't change it. And they're like, no, you can't change it. I was like, yeah, but the E-steps are wrong. It's not even close. It's pushing out 80 millimeters, not 100.
Jeez.
And they're like, no, you can't change it. So I took it apart, and I cut one out real quick, and I made a printer real fast.
Yeah.
And then I made two of them, then I made three of them, and then I put it in the forums. Like, I made this printer, and then everybody was like, well, we want to make one too. And that's, at first, I think it started off, a lot of people had a CNC, and then they're like, well, now what do we do with it?
Yeah.
Now you need to give us projects. And I was like, no,
that's not
I'm
me,
not
man.
that creative.
Yeah.
And so when I do something like that, like the sand thing came out of that. I took a day off and made the sand thing, and it turned into a whole nother deal. And then Jeff came, and when Jeff made the software, it blew up. But the sand thing was just me making a project, and then everybody's like, well, I want one too. So that's how kind of all my stuff goes. I made the CNC for me.
Yeah.
It wasn't no business, no nothing.
Like a one-off. That's it. And then it's just, ooh, I want. And then, I mean, that's the best form of marketing, I guess, is like accidental marketing. You just, here's my thing.
It's weird because at first I always try to downplay it. Well, it's not. Just get a Prusa. Trust me, just get a Prusa.
You don't even hype. You don't even sell it.
They're like, no. I got a CNC and a printer, so why don't we just make this one? I'm like, and then I got to write instructions and make sure my CAD's right, can't file any holes.
Yep.
So it always starts off with me kind of like, no, you don't want to do it. And then I start to run with it. And
is the MP3D something that you also kind of are actively developing, or do you feel like it's at a point where it does what you've wanted it to do and then the community can tweak things if they want or whatever?
It is going to be really bad to say. Every time I make something, as soon as I put it together, there's instantly something I want to change.
Gotcha.
So, no, it's not on the list to change anything, but yes, I really want to change how the extruders mount.
Gotcha.
Other than that, I love the frame right now. It's just the one piece. But for the most part, I think it's done. I want to try a different style. I think that style's done.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's awesome. And I mean, that's one thing I was even thinking about too. It's really cool is that you've got the CNC, which takes 3D printed parts. Then you've got the 3D printer that takes CNC to frame. Like, it's kind of cool. It's like the perfect marriage, like they both, and then like you said too, the end, like making end products that combine. Like, I've got an idea for quite a few, God, I've got a list, but I've got a couple of project ideas that would take parts that would be out of wood, and then certain parts that are resin just for the fine intricacies, and then FDM parts that would basically just be for like back plates to mount things. Like, so it wouldn't even be for like nothing aesthetic about it. It'd actually be hidden, but just purely for mounting, and then the wood for the nice clean look, and then for the really small detailed stuff, again, like some just resin or resin casted even potentially based off of a mold. But yeah, it's super cool. And that's it's funny because when I saw that was one of the things on my list that I wanted to make was the mostly printed 3D printer. But I've got an ANET A8 over here. It's been a project printer for probably 4 years. Started off as an ANET A8. Did all the usual upgrades like the frame braces, the MOSFET board, all that stuff. And then I saw the AM8 project. I was like, oh, sick. Like, yeah, I'd love to convert it to aluminum. Ordered all the aluminum parts. got all this stuff. It's pretty much done other than electrical, but when I was finished assembling it before wiring it, I decided that I didn't like the hardware I went with because 32-bit was becoming really cheap. Like I decided, oh, maybe I want a direct drive. So it's followed me around now from my parents' house to my buddy's house to my first apartment to my second apartment, and we're probably moving again soon to a little bit smaller of a spot, and it's just going to go with me. And like, it's kind of, I've had it for so long where I feel bad just like selling it for parts or putting it in, like, I've got like these tubs, what I call printer graveyard, where I just, if the printer's no good, I'll take what's good,
keep the parts.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's always something. I mean, I can even use it for, probably like MPCNC stuff if I need, some of the parts of it. But, yeah, it's not something that's never, totally come into fruition. It's funny. So the Zen XY is the sand thing you're talking about, correct? So I hadn't seen anything about this, period, until a week and a half ago when I reached out to you.
Don't show your girlfriend. Don't show your girlfriend.
She's gonna want it.
It can really look nice.
And yeah. So I didn't have enough time to do a full deep dive into it, but from what I understand, and based off the naming, it looks like it's essentially a table that uses some kind of magnet with sand to create awesome designs. How far off is? It's baking soda?
Baking soda holds much tighter peaks. Something we learned through experimenting and through school. But yeah, baking soda. And it started off, I took a CNC, I took it off the base and I turned it over on an IKEA table and I stuck a magnet on it. That was the first one. I was like, hey, this is neat. I had like plywood duct tape to a table. Yeah. And I just put it in the forums. Like, this was cool. I hand did all the code. And then it turned into a thing, and I was like, no, don't do that. Let me make parts. So it's actually a Core XY now.
Okay.
Very few parts. But it was just a thing. And then Jeff came along and made Sandify. The software, this is one where it's nothing without the software. The software that, and during this quarantine, they've blown it up. You can add text now. Like, my dinner table right now says hi and everybody's name in front of their chairs.
So awesome.
On top of a pattern.
It's so freaking cool. Yeah.
But the parts in it is nothing. 2 steppers, a board, a couple of pulleys and some belts. There's not, it's super cheap to make.
It's mostly just wood, right? Essentially, like the housing of it.
The hardest part is finding a table suitable, a piece of glass to look through.
Gotcha.
Some people, I use glass on both sides. Some people use hardboard on the bottom.
Okay.
That's the hardest part. Other than that, it's 4 printed parts, 4 small printed parts, 2 steppers. It's awesome. Nothing.
It's definitely something that I would want when I have like a long-term form of residency. Like, I don't think it's something I'd want to be moving around, but I saw it briefly, and I did see the forum post with the latest software, like a screenshot of it. And that's when I was like, yeah, I think that what I think this is exactly what it is. It's like a crazy pattern design, like, maker. And I thought it was sand. I looked very quickly and was like, sand, like, this is...
Some people use sand. Yeah, we started with sand. I just found baking soda looks nicer and is sharper.
Gotcha.
More detailed.
So again, for anyone that doesn't know what this is, the Zen XY is a project that do you sell kits for that or no, because of how small it is, or do you have like the stepper motors and some basic things?
I have the parts. I mean, It came about. I saw there's a commercial. Bruce, I don't remember his name now. Bruce makes a Sisyphus table. And they're really nice and they're really high quality. And his software was a little different. And I saw that and was like, this is amazing, but I don't have $2,000 for a table.
Totally.
So can I just rig something up real quick with this $20 IKEA table in the living room?
That's awesome.
And they did. It was neat. And, my buddy's got a little taco shop and he's like, oh, we need that in there. Can you make it say, the restaurant name? And I was like, I think so. And, I mean, when you get it going, there's a nice pattern in there and it starts again. It's just like when you first got a 3D printer and you watched it print forever.
You're just watching it?
You can be watching TV and you end up watching the coffee table because it's just slowly going.
Mesmerizing. Yeah.
Oh, man. That's why it ended up being the Zen, because it moves so slow. You just look up, oh my God, I've been sitting here an hour.
That's awesome, dude.
And that's
I love the name.
I
think that's also why I thought it was sand, was because of the word Zen. It reminded me of like a Zen garden, like that's I think so. I pictured like the sand and the rake. So so it looks like somebody commented that Bruce Shapiro is who they think the guy is. Yeah. Or Shapiro.
That's Jeff. Yeah. Jeff made the software. Thanks, Jeff.
Oh yeah. So but yeah, that is awesome. And one thing I will say that, like, there's a lot of really cool projects out there, and there's a lot of really cool projects that, like you just said, like that table that's $2,000 that costs a lot of money. And granted, I understand that to everyone, saying that's a lot of money is a very different thing. You know, like to someone, $1,000 might be, that's a ton of money, while someone else is like $1,000, like, oh, that's not a lot of money. Like, so obviously it's based off of who you are and your financial situation. But for myself, coming from, you know, like trying to be like, I'm a regular guy, you know, like trying to come from the standpoint of technology is awesome, making things is awesome, and one of the biggest caveats is a lot of people don't have access to it, you know. And like that's one thing that I love about 3D printing. That's one thing that I've loved about like the whole rep wrap movement, and just the idea of make things, allow them to make more things as easy as possible and as effective as possible. And so that's one thing that always was really attracted to me about the MPCNC, is that for, yes, like you have to source the conduit yourself. Whoop-de-doo. Everyone can find a hardware store, you know, and get, or, you know, whatever. I don't know if people are using other things now too, but that was, again, what we were using then for sure. And it looks like conduit's still the standard, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, you know, conduit was dirt cheap. I was able to print the parts myself because I had my printer. And then again, the parts that you source, but, you know, for a few $100 or whatever it ended up being, like it's incredible. Like that is a very, you know, valuable tool that you can do a lot of things with, and even make money. Like, I mean, I'm sure there's people, man, that have, like you said, the guitar guy,
killing it.
That are hot, like making totally hustling, man. And their MPCNC is their daily driver, which is insane. Like that's so sick that this thing is not only cost effective compared to like most everything else I've ever seen out in the market, but also it's effective. Like it works, man. Because it's like, yes, people make things all the time, but yeah, it kind of sort of works, but it works, man. And like the community too, I'm sure. I mean, if you're getting thousands of email, I'm sure you're getting constantly like feedback on things, different ideas, like people experimenting on their own and providing valuable information. And again, like I feel like
pushing the limits.
Totally. Yeah. You know, oh, that didn't work. And like, cool, that's good feedback. I didn't have to experiment that, but thank you for that valuable information. But I feel like you've always been very like open about things. And again, with the forums and the fact that you're the guy, like you're on the ground floor running things. You're not like, it's not at a point, you know, like you're not sitting behind a door and just telling people like, yeah, just ship them out or whatever. Like you're very much so. And aren't you?
I touch every box.
Yeah. Which, you know, like it's still got that personal touch. And I mean, you also like, and I feel like the one year maybe I was there, you were there, but you typically have gone to like Murph some years too, right? I mean, you're there with like the 3D printing community a bit as well, right?
Yeah, I went 3 or 4 years, and I brought a machine 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I went 1 year without the machine, and I was just worried, like, are they going to get pissed? Because it's, like, I'll put a 3D print head on it, and maybe they'll be okay with it.
Yeah.
I walked in the door and was like, man, I could get these guys to print the parts. I can go run to the hardware store. I can put one together right now.
Yeah.
And then I turned the corner, and one was sitting there.
Oh,
I came in,
awesome.
and an hour later, and one was sitting. I stood there and waited for him to come in. And since then, Ron's hung out with me every time I've gone back.
That's awesome,
but
man.
It blew Murph's its own very special thing. But
yeah.
to come around the corner and already be a kid in a candy store, looking at all the craziest printers ever.
It's awesome.
And everybody's super stoked to talk about their thing.
Yep.
And then to turn around and see an MPCNC sitting there.
Yeah.
And he wasn't there. Thank God, because I must have looked all kinds of crazy. Yeah. I was pacing and I was walking and I was texting people, sending pictures. I was freaking out, and I left. And I came, like, tried to calm down, and I came back and he was there. And then I was kind of an ass.
Oh, really?
And then I started asking him questions, and I was like, so, you like this? Heard it's kind of shitty. Like, just conduit, it really works. And he sold it so hard. And then I was like, sorry, I shouldn't have started that way, but I had to make sure.
Yeah.
I had to make sure you were legit.
Yeah, you're like a secret shopper, kind of, you know.
and then it was super fun. And after that, like, man. So yeah, at the beginning, a lot of people used it as a 3D printer, anyways. Yeah. The big printers weren't out. It was 200 by 200 by 200 is all you could get.
Yep.
So I think a big thing was, you know, slap an extruder on here. One of my first videos was a dual head.
Yep.
And then, you know, people started making them big, and I'm like, well, all right, it works as a printer, but like, let's not advertise this as a printer because people will get disappointed.
Totally.
If you need to do something big, it can.
Yeah.
But it's not ideal.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's kind of the point. It's not the best CNC in the world, but it does it. And you can do all these other things, and it doesn't cost much.
Yeah. I think that for most people that I talk to, that are looking to get into CNC, and for the type of things, whether it's like home crafts, DIY projects, some custom woodworking, signs, stuff like that. It does a fantastic job of that stuff, man. I mean, I've seen it firsthand. It does. Like, it really does a fantastic job. At most things, like, yes, maybe if you're the guy that needs to be constantly milling out, like aluminum backplates, like, yeah, get maybe a more industrial machine. But to be fair, I've seen people do aluminum on it. I've seen you do it in your videos. I've seen, people in your forums post. Yeah. So, I mean, again, like, I think that, obviously, and anytime I hear someone that's looking to get into CNC and they've never CNC before, and they're looking to get in like kind of a, like prosumer but not industrial CNC, they want to do aluminum, I always say, practice with other things first, man. Do your acrylics, do your softwoods, do your hardwoods. Like, I'm like, it's much more forgiving if you plunge a bit too quickly into some, like, some soft wood. But if you're plunging too quickly into, aluminum, you could damage you can hurt yourself. You're definitely going to probably damage the router. You're going to break your bit. You might damage the whole entire, like, I mean, there's just so many things that can go wrong going into a metal versus a wood. So, but again, like, just knowing that the machine, you can grow with it. And again, who's to say, like, let's say the guy that gets the MPCNC and does all this crazy stuff with it and ends up deciding that, at one point he feels like, I've kind of outgrown it for some of the things I'm wanting to do. Like, there is industrial machines out there. If you want to spend thousands on thousands at that, like, they exist. They're not going anywhere, and like your goal, like your CNC isn't there to replace like the water jet blasted industrial machine.
Precisely. I think that's how I've learned to pitch it, because you just heard me do it. I always talk it down. I try to under promise.
And it's over promise, under promise, over deliver. Yeah, that's it.
And that's how, if it turns out to be your gateway CNC, I still feel like I win.
Yeah.
But I think for most people, I kind of pitch it like, hey, if you think you want to spend $50,000 on a CNC, why not spend $500 and try it out?
Yeah.
The only difference is it's going to be slower. And in the end, you're going to learn some things, and you'll have two CNCs.
Yep.
And you can work both of them at the same time. So the people that do move on, it's not generally to the side to a similar machine.
Yeah.
They go big. I mean, the ones that realize, oh, I like this and I'm going to make money, they go big. But then there's other guys that are like, I'm just doing wood. I'm going to get 3 of these things. So when I'm loading one up, one's cutting and I'm doing finishing, like, so it's weird. I'm very negative about it for whatever reason, but I don't think very many people actually move on.
Yeah.
People get to it and they're like, and the ones that don't like it, it didn't cost a lot, and they sell it or give it to a neighbor and like, hey, try this thing out.
It's a very small investment to test the water and see whether this is something that, because I mean, again, with anything like CNC, 3D printing, laser cutting, whatever, go on YouTube, you find people doing cool stuff. And I make videos all the time, but the videos that cut down to 15 minutes took 2 weeks of work, or, a week of work of failing, trying again, editing this out. So, they see this and they think, oh, like, look how easy it is. And I try to show my failures. Yeah. So a lot of people, they get it, I'm sure. And they're like, oh man, like, this isn't at all what I pictured. And that's fine. Like, that's just the way it is with some people. But again, rather that than I just invested $10K in this thing that is now a massive paperweight in my shop or in my garage, So yeah, absolutely. I think that that's phenomenal. And again, for most people, whether it's just the gateway jug or whether it ends up being the end all as far as this is perfect for what my application is and let's just multiply it now, like, it's a beautiful thing either way. It doesn't matter.
Lose.
Yeah, there's no lose.
You don't lose. Rarely does anybody want to get out of it that can't sell it to get their money back.
Yeah.
I mean, worst case, and that's so rare. It really is. In 5 years, I don't think that's a very common avenue.
Yeah.
More people go to really expensive machines than sell out, I think.
Yeah.
But a majority are like, this does what I wanted it to do. I don't know, like, how many people have a table saw? The ones that are going to use it every day have a really fancy, expensive one. They started with something else. But a lot of people have a table saw that gets used.
Freight, baby.
Yeah. You use it once a month, and it's a tool that you need. I don't think everybody uses a CNC every day.
Yep.
So why would you get a $50,000 one? And
yep. No, that's a fact, and that is
my mentality.
Yeah. No, that's my mentality too, and I always, again, like, point of thought is that like even for example, like I mean the laser behind me, right? It's a cheap K40 Chinese laser that I got off eBay for probably $350, and my thought was I was looking at some of the bigger ones that were $1,500, $2,000, and I could get one, but I thought to myself like I'm very interested in this, but I don't know like how much will I actually use it and what will I end up doing with it. And so I told myself I'd get this one, and if I end up using it a lot, it ends up becoming valuable, and I end up making content on or creating things, then I would upgrade. But if for some reason I don't use this, again, sell it locally, recoup most of the cost, and then move on. Like it's that's my mentality as well. It's not everybody. I can tell you, there's a lot of people that just go ball out, and then they're like, "What did I do?" But for me, it's definitely test the waters before jumping in head first. I've actually got it's at like 56 minutes, which is crazy. I've got
My bad.
No. It's not even like they always run longer, but like it's funny. Because I was trying to keep it within a certain window. So, couple of questions. First question is, from the time that I got it, which was the Ramstar Arduino, the last one I saw, which you switched over to, I believe it was either a Rambo or Mini Rambo. Is that currently still the standard of what you're including with the kits?
They're optional. Yeah, I love the Ultimate Machine boards. There's no issues.
Yeah.
They're bulletproof. They're expensive, but
yeah,
for the kind of people that are getting into this, the avenue has changed. A lot of people that are getting into it have no experience with all that stuff. These boards are dummy proof. You can't back current screw them up. Everybody's worried that you can't pop out the drivers. You don't need to, because you really can't pop a driver unless you physically screw it up.
This is on the Rambo, or no?
On the Rambo and Mini Rambo.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
So still offer both, but I'm looking into another board right now that we're testing out. I want to still offer a lower cost option.
Gotcha.
But I think a lot of the guys, the money's well spent, because it's the one thing that most people are scared of. Most people buy them from me because they're pre-flashed.
Yep.
And when I tell them, like, man, it's like 3 clicks to flash a board, it's really not that bad.
Yep.
So you can tell the people that buy it. The people that know a board, they'll come in with something else anyways. The people that want to buy a board just want to know it's going to work. So
Ramstar Arduino is still an option for the cheaper side if you wanted to go that route, or something similar to that.
No, I'm looking at another one. No more ramps.
Okay. So it's okay. Are you out of curiosity? Are you considering 32-bit on that new board?
Yeah, the SKR Pros, I think.
Okay.
With the 2209s.
Nice. Okay. Is there much? It's like from your experience, because again, you've definitely got way more CNC experience than me, though, and all the stuff you're involved with. Is there like for like 3D printing typically no? You're saying no? There you go, talking it down again. Is there what?
The 30? You're gonna ask about the 32-bit?
Yeah.
There's nothing yet that we need.
Okay, gotcha. Because it's not silence.
It seems good. I want to future-proof, but even with the fancy motion equations that are in there, they broke them down. They were pushing the 8-bit boundary. Yeah. But somebody went into Marlin and rewrote it in assembly, and it works fine on 8-bit now.
Crunched it, basically.
So junction deviation and all that is fine.
It's crazy.
The cost of 32-bit is the same, or actually less now.
It's insane.
So why not?
It is insane. Yeah. That's also, again, when I got a Ramstar Arduino for my AM8 that's sitting over there, and then I saw like Big Tree Tech or whatever with their cheap, and I'm like, oh my god, like this is insane. No longer is the price, because for a long time, I mean, again, like it was the ramps, like you had the Ramstar Arduino boards, then you had like the the kind that came in the ANET, which is like they're combined in one. I can't think of what the heck they're called off the top of my head. But there was a pretty big jump between that, and then you had really expensive stuff. Like the Mini Rambo, I wouldn't describe it as really expensive. Like for an 8-bit, it's expensive, but like you said too, the components are quality. I mean, it's got a fuse built into it. It's got drivers. Like there's a lot of good stuff. But like the other boards out there, like the original Smoothie board and like the Duet boards and stuff like that, like they're sick boards, don't get me wrong, but again, from the guy that's trying to spend a few $100s on building a CNC, spending a few $100s on a controller, like it just they don't mesh, it's not for that customer. So okay, so that is cool. So you're using Rambos, but you're looking into something else. And then there was one other thing. When it comes to the controller software for basically sending and receiving G code, is there one that's recommended that most people are using with your machines, or is it all different ones? I just don't know. Like
just the LCD. It's so much easier on a big machine to use the memory card in an LCD.
Really?
The other option is Jeff, the same guy that did the Sandify software.
Yeah.
He put together Octoprint, Octopi, all of it. All the stuff that I don't like doing with Linux.
Yeah.
He put together an image that you just burn to the card, you stick it in your Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
And you go wireless to the board. That's kind of the two ways now. It's the LCD or wireless with any image, but Jeff's image was just really easy. It's dummy proof for me.
Gotcha.
So, it's a hotspot. You go from your phone and you can control it on your phone. No plugging in a controller for the people that want that. And that's better because there's no wires. The LCD is good because there's no wires. You get something like the Lowrider that's 8 foot long moving around. You don't want it plugged in.
Gotcha. No,
so I kind of push the LCDs really hard when people are buying something. And if they have a question, I said, just buy the LCD. Trust me. Don't skimp on the $15 and try to plug in your laptop.
Do you set the origin from the LCD screen then on there?
We usually set G92 right in the G code. So you move it where you want, and when you hit go, it resets it.
Gotcha.
Resets the coordinates.
So that's starting point. So basically in the CAM software, you'd set whether origin is center of the part or bottom left or bottom right or whatever the point. Okay, that makes sense. Because I don't remember. I don't think on the one that I got originally there was an LCD screen. Does that sound right? I don't think back then there was. On the early kits, I don't remember there being.
It took a while. I recommended buying them, but I didn't want to sell them. I was worried about shipping them.
Okay, yeah, because I was gonna say I don't remember there being an LCD screen. I know that Mod Shop, I saw in his photo, he's got everything's internalized in like the wood and acrylic enclosure, and then he's got the LCD screen on the outside. So that makes sense then as to that. Okay, so I don't know if it's anything to be said, but I know that you announced the version 2 of the MPCNC.
5. We're at like 5 now.
Oh, V5. But is it called something completely different though? Like
Primo.
It's called what?
This one's the Primo.
Okay.
Primo for this one. The last one was Burley. Before that was 525. The one you bought was Better Center, Better Z or something. I don't remember what that. And the first one was just MPCNC. So this one we voted on, and I called the voting when it was at Primo, and that's what we're sticking with.
That's awesome. So then I didn't realize. So you've had 5, and they're pretty major revisions over the course. Like when there's a full revision. I mean, it's most of the printed parts.
So I'm getting forced into counting it now, but I'm counting it when the center gets reworked.
Gotcha. Okay. So
I've done the corners and the rollers and all that stuff have gotten reworked in between. This is the first time I'm doing every single part. And this is a full new one. A lot of the parts are similar, but this new center is very different. And I've probably wasted 7-8 kilos now printing prototypes on it. It's
insane, man.
It's a hard puzzle, but I'm almost there. I got some beta testers using it.
Oh, do you? Awesome. You said originally you'd planned on announcing something about it at Murph, or no? Was that incorrect? I thought I saw something like that.
I had enough stuff to bring with me. And since now we've had this time, everything's getting reworked, and it's working out for the better. The parts are coming out even better, even more detailed, and I'm willing to spend a little more time on just things that look better. So the engineer just wants functional as fast as possible, all that.
Yeah.
Now I'm adding
function,
some details
form.
too.
Yeah, so you're adding form and function. Yeah. I mean, I've always thought that the parts, they've got nice, geometry to them. They're not they were never ugly. Even like V1, the corner pieces were still nice and curved and stuff like that. I felt like you put some thought into it. It wasn't just this will bolt to that and that will bolt to that. There was always.
I try.
Okay. All right.
That's not natural to me. Gotcha. I do the most refined version, and then when it works, I'll go in and add some stuff to try to make it look a little better. But it always starts as this is the absolute minimum to make this work.
Gotcha. Okay. That's fair. I mean, that's fair. I think that's the most important thing, is it working? And then, people like things that look pretty, so I think that having it look nice, too, is also a positive. But function is certainly, especially in something like a CNC machine, if it looks like, if it looks like a beauty but runs like a beast, then well, that's again running like a you know what I mean though. You know, like if it looks good but runs like crap, then nobody's gonna want it. I guess runs like a beast would probably be a positive thing. Like the CNC is a beast, but okay. As far as the kits go and things like that, so you've got the MPCNC, you said some of the stuff for potentially the Zen XY. Are you doing kits on the lowriders as well?
Yeah, lowrider kits and the MPCNC kits mostly. Okay. I have the parts for the other projects, but they're not really kits because most of the people that build a Zen are like you, and they have a couple of steppers laying around.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, hey, I need 2 pulleys and like 10 feet of belt.
Gotcha.
So it's almost
not
people
worth it,
do ask for a kit, but I don't.
Yeah.
It's not really worth it.
Gotcha. And all of the parts that you print in your kits, are they PETG? Are they PLA, or what are you printing mostly?
PLA.
Okay. Yeah, that's what mine was initially too, and that seems to work totally fine, right? Like I mean, they're not really taking the brute force of anything. Like the conduit, I mean, is right. Like for the most part,
there's a couple of key pieces that really need to be rigid.
Okay.
All the other stuff is stronger. It doesn't break as easy, but that just means it flexes more.
Gotcha.
So that's why I kind of brought that in. This new one is put together differently, and it's not going to be as important. Right now, it matters. If you printed a current MPCNC in PETG, it would be noticeably worse.
Interesting.
Like we are pushing plastic really hard on these machines.
So you recommend in the bill of materials, or in the, like, if you're doing the print, you recommend PLA? Interesting.
The only issues are like the guys in Arizona that work in a shed, not in their garage.
Yeah, totally.
That's the only time it's been an issue.
Yeah.
I mean, people still do it, and now I've even gotten it down to there's 2 main pieces that have to be PLA. All the rest, it doesn't really matter. It's just easier for me to say just do PLA.
I wonder if somebody that just wanted to create like a cool looking version, if they did a combination of PETG with carbon, if that would work, because I know that carbon typically stiffens it up a bit, right? I mean, like that could potentially do the trick.
This morning somebody came through and said, hey, they're making PETG with carbon in it, and it seems to be better. I'm willing to try it. It's expensive, but if I'm only printing one part out of that, and it makes the machine just a little better, it's worth it. If all the rest can be whatever else, who cares? Just the one part with some of that carbon. That's weird. This morning's email, this guy was like, "You need to look at this."
And
that's the first thing I did. Link me some tests so I can see it.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Funny. Yeah, because I just know that again, at Matter Hackers, they've got like Nylon X, and I don't do a lot of carbon fiber printing per se, but the stuff I have done at the office, and the stuff one of my buddies that's a huge print guy there that's done like he's just decked out his personal printer with like combination of glass filled material and nylon. It's definitely much more rigid than like the standard nylon in its pure form. So I would anticipate that, again, PTG, which has more flex. So if you add that, and like also if you're just going for like sex appeal, it looks great, man. Carbon fiber filament, dude, it's gorgeous. Like the layer lines all blend, and it just gives it like, it's like a rugged texture, man. Yeah, I love it. Like, like that's such a nerdy thing to say, that like a filament color, but it's beautiful, man. Like it is awesome looking stuff. So
that's a possibility for sure. Just this morning, and normally I don't know, for whatever reason I didn't think it was possible with PETG, but put those two together, and it sounds like it should work to me. Like the slightly engineer side thinks that would make sense. It didn't work the same with PLA. It didn't make it better. It made it worse.
With PLA carbon?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was, I don't remember specifically, but that's why I was like, but with PETG, it might offset it because it's so much more, I think it balances out. It makes sense in my head.
Yeah. I'd be curious to know. I'm surprised no one out there has tested it, but I'd be curious to know
CNC Test Kitchen needs to get on that.
No kidding, man. He's like my material scientist. Every time a video comes out, he's like one of the guys where when I watch his videos, I always learn stuff, but I know that like if I knew more, I would learn more. You know what I'm saying? Like some of the stuff I'm like, all right, that's kind of over my head, but like I always feel like watching his videos makes me want to grab, like, I got my pad and my pen, I'm like taking notes, because it's just so much. Like his videos are insanely awesome, but he does all sorts of just kick butt experiments that I really enjoy watching, as far as like pushing, like I liked seeing his videos where he compared some of the resins as far as like their strength, because a lot of people are printing out with resin 3D printers, but to actually see as far as the overall like push-pull and tensile strength. That was really interesting to see. So
I trust his tests.
yeah.
All the other ones, when people test stuff, going through school and doing those tests in school,
Yeah.
I can see the flaws in most people's tests. When he tests stuff, I can't see a flaw, so I trust it.
Yeah.
I mean, by nature, I guess I don't trust most of that. But the first thing I did this morning was I checked his video to see if he tested it yet.
Oh,
he doesn't have one.
Carbon fiber PET?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So out of curiosity, between now and launch of V5, you said, or I'm sorry, I gotta write down. What's the name one more time?
Primo.
Okay, so out of the between now and launch of Primo, do you plan on having any like more teasers and spoilers and stuff like that kind of coming out as you get closer? Or because I mean, I know there was a pretty big hype the other day when you posted that. Like everyone was kind of, I saw a lot of comments about it. Like, oh man, like I just printed out mine. Like, I mean, the bottom line is I know that the people that already printed theirs, whether they do or don't go with the latest or wait, like they're gonna be stoked on their machine regardless. But is there gonna be more? Like, do you have do you think teasers in mind?
I think we're so close right now. I mean, I don't know if you can see what I think is the final part is printing right behind me.
Is it on the closest machine right there?
It's on the 10-kilo spool.
And that's the main the motion, not the motion system, the carriage, the carriage of it all.
So if that one works out, I'll pass it over to Tim, Barry, and Gus and let them print it and verify it. And if they verify it, we're really close to showing everybody everything.
That's awesome, man.
But it's just, I was 2 days ago, I thought, oh, I screwed up and this isn't going to get released. I don't see a fix for the problem I had. And then, I stopped being bummed out about it and sat down and worked on it. And I think I fixed it in a more simple way, which to me, I think that's means I did it better.
How many, this is going to be impossible to answer. I would say, how many hours do you think you spent CADing for this project in general? Which I don't think is any answer to, but do you know
this current one? One.
Yeah. Let's start with this.
Just the center alone on this current one, I've been working on for probably 5 months solid.
That's freaking insane, dude.
All the other machines, the lowrider was built in a weekend, was CADed up, printed, and built in a weekend.
Jeez.
So, I mean, that was 16 hours.
Yeah.
This center took a lot. And all the rest of it was quick and easy, and I kind of did stuff. I spent a little more time on it, but this center, I've never spent this much time on something. So if it doesn't work, it's more heartbreaking. Because before, I'm just, I threw it together, it didn't work. This one...
That's a lot of time, man. 5 months is that's kind of a love project. Like that's a lot of time and effort and energy and heart and sweat to put into something.
Yeah, it's the part I love doing about this. Packing the boxes isn't very fun, and ordering and emails.
Yeah.
And then I get off work and I go do CAD, and to me, for whatever, it's not work until this part. Now that we're beta testing it, now it's work. I have to find a solution.
Yeah.
Before it was like, ooh, this is better, and I print one out and I break it. Ooh, if I add a little more right here, and then at that point, it's all super fun. So that 5 months was fun.
Yeah.
And now I'm stressed to the gills.
Down to the wire, man. Yeah, I could understand that. I will say that I mean, for you and having CAD and loving CAD so much, I feel like it's definitely, it's a creative outlet, It's your world. You can do what you want with it, and you can create any form. Out of curiosity, and if answering this question spoils too much, don't answer, but out of curiosity, what makes you think that this part took so long compared to what something normally takes? Was it that you were looking for a specific design or a certain property or strength, or I mean, again, and if that gives away too much of the treats, don't answer it. But I'm just curious. I mean, if you built the lowrider in one weekend project and you spent 5 months on this on a part that obviously works and has worked for the last 4 revisions, what is it about this that drove you to want to just spend so much time on it? Like, what were you looking for, you think?
The feedback we get in the forums and the things people struggle with, the how to make it more square. Every time I'm trying to make it easier to get perfect.
Yeah.
I hate saying perfect. Easier to get right.
Yeah.
And all that feedback and all the stuff that goes into it, I just thought there was a better way. And if I just made it easier, that's a win. But if I made it easier and stronger, faster,
It's a
all that
win-win.
stuff,
Yeah.
it's a win-win. And then the idea hit and it started working. And I took a couple of turns along the way, but I don't know. That's the weird part. It's more simple. The concept is easy. People will see it and like know which bolts they need to turn.
Gotcha.
But to get all those bolts in a 90-degree corner,
Yeah.
there's 4 rails right there.
Yep.
And half the bolts and nuts and everything are right there to get it all to get in and then still print well.
Yep.
In only one direction and only be one piece.
It's a lot of thought, man. Yeah.
Yeah, you just go at it and you just keep carving away. And then I thought I had it really good and I printed it out and I was like, oh, it doesn't print really well.
Yeah.
I have to move this thing over so there's no layer lines no start lines right here.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, it gets down to a point, the only revisions I'm doing are just to make it print better.
Gotcha.
So I think it's been functional for a while.
So one of the biggest hurdles then is the manufacturing process, which is 3D printing. I mean, like if it was a part that was, on like a 5-axis machine or whatever, like it'd be a different scenario. But for the sake of people that want to be able to print this and make it need to be able to do so, that takes a lot of head scratching to figure out, is this feasible to do on an average desktop 3D printer?
It's easier for me to solve the problem one time than have everybody that print it have to deal with it.
Gotcha.
Supports or overhangs or adding something in. I thought about CNCing parts to sandwich in there and do all this stuff. It's just overcomplicating a simple problem. It is in the end only 4 rails that are going there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's 4 rails, and the smaller you can get it, the bigger the machine is.
Yep.
So it's
crazy.
That's
crazy,
engineering.
man.
That's the fun part for me.
Yeah.
That's the art
awesome,
I'm good
man.
at.
Yeah. That's sick. It's crazy. Thank you for sharing that, man. That's super cool. Okay, I got one last question, and then I think we'll do a couple questions because we're at an hour and 17 minutes, and I did say 45 minutes, then we do questions. So the final question I have is, do you plan on, or do you think you will, when this is officially launched or close to it, have kits available, or will there be a lag?
It will only launch when the kits are ready.
Perfect.
And everything, I have enough kits right now to do it, so if it's ready,
you're ready, man. You're ready. Yeah. Okay.
So I have a small number right now ready, and I have upgrade kits. So everybody that's got the other one, I don't like screwing people over and saying, oh, you got to buy all this stuff. So I tried to keep that in mind, and I have upgrade kits. The upgrade kits were the first thing. Those are here and ready, and it's just screws and nuts and a set of bolts and some pulleys, I think. I mean, it's not very different. It's going to cost people not very much to update. But it's easier because I have to field the emails. If I don't have this stuff, all I get is, hey, when can I buy this? Is it going to, I can put on the contact page, this is the date and time it's due to arrive. Yeah. And I'll still get 100 emails. When's that coming?
Yeah.
Do you have any there that I could get from you now?
It's crazy to think.
If I did, I'd send them.
It's crazy to think that you do shipping, sales, support, design, marketing. Like, I mean, again, I know you said you've got a couple buddies to come over and help out, but still, like, the meat of it is a one-man operation, which I just find bonkers because of the fact that it has grown so much and your forums are very active and the project is very active. Like, it just seems insane to me, dude. Like I've got projects going on and it's a lot less involved than what you've got going on. And to think that one person is doing it, like if I had a hat, like hats off, man, cause it's a lot, dude. Like I mean, I've tried running my own little hustle and like, I do my own things, sure. But I've tried my own little things that are much less involved and it's a lot of work, man. And like when you're your own boss, you're the only one that's got to get up and motivate yourself. And like, hey, I've got to get this. Like, nobody, I mean, again, if you got a wife or, whatever, like maybe she's cracking the whip. But I'm just saying like there's no boss to answer to other than yourself per se. And it takes a lot of self-control and a lot of just like, just eyes on the prize.
Some people can't do it. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Some people cannot do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know that I can. I tried working for myself for a bit. No, I'm just dead serious. Like I am very good at procrastinating and coming up with excuses. And I've noticed that the times that I have a lot of time available, I don't necessarily get more done the times I don't have a lot of time available, because I end up crunching it and getting the same stuff done. So, I mean, it might come with, again, of like coming up with a little bit of a schedule. Like, I'm sure you've got your workflow now after 5 years that you kind of go through your
coffee and emails.
Yeah, exactly, man. Yeah, it's insane
but
what you got going on.
If you kind of flip that around a little bit, that drives the motivation to make things easier.
Yeah.
Less parts, easier for me. Less parts and easier for people, and hopefully cheaper. So it kind of forces it to be easy. If I made some crazy thing with 800 different parts, I would be in trouble.
Oh God, what a nightmare!
Just wouldn't be the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's, you have to balance it, and that's how all my stuff is based on. I make a lot of choices. Like, can I do this? Can I keep up with this? Do I want to do it this way?
Yeah.
And that's why I started do I CNC these parts and I'm sandwich it? Nope. No. Because right there, you have 3 parts instead of 2. Yeah. And then whatever hardware and faster, or 3 parts instead of 1, and all the other stuff. And then you spend another day in CAD and solve the problem.
Yep.
Instead of forever
just
having to buy more parts.
Yeah. No, that's it. That's maybe those 5 months are worth it. I mean, they are. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe they're worth it. Like, if in the end of it all, that 5 months is not a lot in the grand scheme of what potentially you solved by working for those 5 months to make sure that you went through all the different revisions and all the nights and all of the, to get to a point where you're happy with the end product. But either way, I know I'm stoked to see what this looks like. It was funny that I happened to, because I didn't see that and then reach out to you. You've been like, I have a list of people that I'd like to have on here, and you've been on that list for a bit. And so it just coincidentally was like, I wonder if he'd be up for it. And then I happened to see that you had the things launching around the same time. I was like, oh, like this would be perfect timing. Like or maybe not perfect timing because you're swamped, But anyways, let's open it up. If anybody in the chat has questions specifically for Ryan or myself, but preferably Ryan since he's the guest on here. I know that I saw some stuff up way earlier on that I think we covered a lot of it. But we'll do a few moments here of just questions. If there's anyone. I see people asking, like, what did I miss earlier, which we kind of went around. Yeah, let's see if anyone's got any questions. I see someone here that says yay for upgrades, which is Phil Kelly. Do you know Phil?
Phil Kelly bought one of my demo machines from Murph.
Oh, really? How funny, man.
I'm almost positive that's who that is. And
awesome.
I brought one of my beat up machines. The stainless was getting beat up, so I reprinted a couple of parts, threw it in a suitcase, and brought it there. And he was there with his wife. He came back around a couple of times, and I was getting ready to pack things up, and he was like, "It's like, yeah, all right, I'll let you have it."
That's awesome, man.
It's fun because he pokes in every once in a while, and I don't think CNC was ever on his radar, but. He was like, "Man, this looks fun. I got to try it." And I was like, "Oh, all right." It is fun. So let's see how it goes.
It's another medium for creating things, like it's another tool in the shop. And like, I think with 3D printing, that's sort of where it's started to go for me, at least, is it's a tool, like there's the right tool for the right job. Sometimes it's a quick printed part. Other times it's like, yes, it needs to be CNC'd. But again, like stemming back to the sake of, yes, certain things can be 3D printed and be fine. Like a random example, but I printed out this super simple sticker holder, right? It's just an oval with a lid on it that fits on it. And like it suffices, but like how much cooler would this look if it was in wood? You know what I'm saying?
Just a wooden lid.
Yeah,
with something on the top.
Yeah, exactly. Even just a wooden lid, or like even if I milled out something like an acrylic lid, or whatever, but just another kind of medium that a CNC can provide. It's awesome.
The other thing that's kind of crazy is there's a lot of people that get it and build it just as a platform to learn with, because you have the firmware, but CAD and CAM said, there's a lot of people that are just like, hey, this looks like the easiest way to learn all this stuff all at the same time.
I could see your kits being popular for classrooms, man. For
University of Washington, they teach a class using my machine, a whole class based on it. So they put it together, and they have to make an add-on, they have to program it, but it's all centered on the MPCNC.
Super cool.
Which is nuts.
Yeah, that's insane. That's gotta be that's got to be flattering, man. Like, regardless of, how you say something, like you try to hype your stuff down, but when you see it like that, man, it's teaching people that are interested in CNC or interested in engineering and design or CAD or CAM. Like, that's a cool feel, man. Like, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that probably never would have access to even like the $1,000 or $2,000 CNC machines that are able to CNC stuff because of a project that you created. Like, that's awesome, man. That's super cool.
It's trippy because I'm a dude in a garage.
You are the dude. You're the dude in the garage, man.
and then things pop up. Like some of the articles, when it shows up on Hackaday, that freaks me out. Like it doesn't sink in. Like, I look at Hackaday every day, and then randomly my machine will be sitting there, and it's like, wow, awesome. How do they even know about this?
Yeah, it's sick, man. It's crazy.
It's different.
It looks like there is a couple of people on here. Let's see. Aaron, my fiance, says, "Thumbs up, Ryan. You two were easy to listen to. Keep up the good work." She's the best.
Keep putting up with him. Thank you.
Yeah. She's the best. She heard. She probably heard about the Zen XY then, so I'm already in trouble when I get off here. So let's see. Captain Slaymore says, "I used copper L pipe, polished up really nice and lacquered for the MPCNC. I'm hoping it works as well as the Lowrider 2, going for the steampunk look." Oh, that's kind of cool.
That's new. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see that. Jeff says to you, how many MPCNCs do you think are out there in the wild?
Whoa. There is no way to know that number.
No?
Even, I wouldn't even know.
Thousands? Thousands, right?
Easily.
Yeah.
Per year, easily.
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't even know. I mean, the first couple of weeks, there was 40 of them. When I first put it out, there was 40 something in a week, and I didn't even think people could print that fast. And that was 5 years ago. That was 40 in a week. And there was nothing then.
It would be cool to see like how Prusa has that little like Prusa tracker thing where you can like register it and it shows on the map where they are. If you could see where in the world your MPCNCs are, I bet you they've got to be, all over the globe, like in every corner.
I ship them everywhere.
Oh, you
everywhere.
Do international too? If they pay shipping or whatever, you'll ship it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me and the mail lady, every day when we're packing up the truck, she's like, "Where's this?"
You're like, "I don't know."
And everywhere. And it's very
awesome, man.
I mean, there's people that were like, "Hey, I had to get in a boat to go to the main place, to the hardware shop, and get some conduit and bring it back on the boat and pick." I'm like, "Where are you at?"
Yeah.
Kuala Lumpur, something main island. What?
It's insane.
Like, how do those people even find me?
Internet, baby.
Just a dude in a garage.
Yeah. That's awesome. Phil did confirm that, yes, I bought the last Murph unit with a big smiley face, so you did get that right.
Memorable.
Let's see. It was the only Murph unit. Let's see. Did you ever replace the smashed tube? Was that on the...
Yeah, because that one I had over-tightened the center, and it actually smashed the stainless steel. So there was bearing tracks in the stainless steel tube. So we turned them. That's kind of another bonus of the tube. You can turn it a little bit, and you got a whole new fresh section.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's right, because it only rides on the one slot. So easy breath of new life. Let's see. Jay Rose says, absolutely, I'm planning on using the MPCNC build for STEM classes at Makerspace to go along with the 3D printing classes. So that's awesome. That's rad.
Yes.
Let's see.
That's the best stuff to hear.
Yeah, Darren Roberts says, Ryan, thank you for making he said the CNBC, which...
Hey, I'll take it.
Available for hobbyists. And then, let's
welcome.
see. I didn't see a smash... Oh, he says, I didn't see a smash tube. The one with the flat push into it. Uh-oh, maybe he'll see it now. Well, I guess if he hasn't seen it now, it hasn't caused any issues, man. That's awesome. Well... unless anyone's got any other questions, I think we'll probably wrap it up on that. It's hitting an hour and a half mark, and I covered everything on my list. I mean, there's like a jillion more questions, and I'm sure like there's so much more stuff I'd like to ask and go over, but perhaps we can do another version, or even after your next version releases, maybe we can do something talking about that, or something down the road like that. But either way, again, thank you so much, man, for coming on. Seriously, it's crazy because. Again, I don't think I said this. I didn't say this earlier, but So again, when I got into 3D printing, it was the first big project and probably the biggest 3D printing project I've ever done that I thought has been the coolest. I've done some, like I've got a 3 foot tall goose and I've made some arcade cabinets, but I mean, it's the coolest thing I think that I've made. And it was right, again, at the beginning of it all, but I never met you in person. And then I met you 3 years later when I was working at Bay Area Maker Faire with Matter Hackers, man.
Oh yeah.
Remember?
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
working the booth, and you came up to me, and I didn't know who you were, and then all you said was like, "Hey, like I'm Ryan, and like I talked to you a long time ago. Like you were one of the guys that built my MPCNC," and then it was just like light bulb and like pumped. I was like, "No way, dude! Like you were down in San Diego. What are you doing up here, man?" So it's cool because like again, throughout like 3D printing is something I've been in for about 6 years now, and from right around the beginning, you were there about the halfway point. You said what's up, and then now here you are again, man. So it's awesome. Definitely like keep up the great work. It's
Thank you.
I love the project, and it's also really inspiring to, again, just to see like you said, you're not a huge corporation. You're a man in a garage that had an idea that you stuck with, and it's really exciting to see the fruits of your labor. And I'm excited to see again this centerpiece of your new machine. I'm expecting this thing to just like have like holy heavenly music when it comes out because
easy.
yeah, that's right.
Under promise, over deliver.
That's right. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be okay. I guess
Yeah, exactly. It should be all right.
Yeah.
It should be all right.
But yeah, I want to say thank you. And where can people? I mean, it seems like most of the chat knows where you are, but again, this will be going on Google Play, on iTunes, and on the channel for anyone to watch. Where can people find you, find your project? Where can people that want to build or purchase this, what's the best way to get a hold of you or find out this stuff?
V1 Engineering on everything, everywhere, website, all the socials, all that. V1 Engineering.
Okay, V1 Engineering, and I'm pretty sure I have to double check. I'm almost positive I already put that in the description of this. It'll be in the podcast stuff, but it'll be in the video. So if you're watching this later, you want to find out more, links will be down there. But definitely, if you're looking for a CNC machine or a 3D printer or an awesome gift for yourself or your significant other, and you like she loves some Zen, baby, then definitely check out his stuff. It's awesome. The forums are great, and like some of the people from the forums have been in the chat. Thank you guys. Again, they're super friendly. And yeah, I appreciate you guys checking out. This is episode 5 of Maker's Minute. It's been a total blast, and again, really stoked to have you on. And I hopefully will be seeing more of you around. And on that note, we will end it, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.